guys, welcome back to the Trauma Series with me, Mayameen Meftahi. I'm a qualified psychotherapist, NLP practitioner, independent advocate and fitness instructor. And I've been doing a few series with you on trying to understand trauma, our avoidance, our safety behaviours, and of course our triggers. But every day I'm asked, how can I heal? It's the $1 billion question is, how can I heal? I need to heal. And honestly, the truth is, there's really no one size fits all. There's no one rule on this is how you can heal. I think it's actually a process. Everybody will get to a point, what I call a breaking point, where they've been through so much in their lives and it's literally becoming a burden. And I think when you get to that point and you actually take a step back and realize that that's not your burden to carry, okay? Whatever happened to you, if it was at the hands of somebody else, that's not your burden to carry. And we can do as much as we want, but if we have resistance in trying to heal, then we're not going to be able to step forward. And to be honest, there is no better counsellor than yourself. You know yourself better than anyone. Even if you're going to see a counsellor, you're never really going to be able to give 1,000,000% to them, because you're always going to be having these thoughts in your back of the head. Oh, I don't really want to say that because what will they think of me? Or I don't want to go too deep. I don't want to go into the root. So there's always going to be a slight part of you that's going to be creating that barrier and keeping that barrier up. And the majority of the time it's a protective factor, right? Because to heal is gruesome. It's painful. It's the silent screams that are inside of you that you have to now externalize. And so how are you going to do that? That is the question. And I think every single one of us has a separate journey, right? Everyone's on their own journey to healing and recovery. But the first step for you is when you get to that point of, I can't do this anymore, and why should I? It is not my burden. When that comes, then you have to evaluate whether you're ready for the gruesome process. And it's okay if you're not. It's okay if right now to bring all of that emotions and all of that hurt and all of that pain to the surface is not going to feel great. It's maybe right now you're thinking, hey, no, I can't go there. Then that's okay. But when you do get to that point, that's when freedom will become. That's when you will start to be able to heal. And it can start at the very basic level of an inner healing. So if you've been through something traumatic in your childhood, then you need to start with looking back at your childhood. You need to start making those links and those connections to what you went through. You hear it probably very often about the inner child healing. So for example, what I did, and this was just so hard to do. I actually, at one point, I got the one photo of me as a child, and I don't have any apart from this one. And I remember it was like early hours of the morning, everybody was asleep, and I just came downstairs and I just got this picture and I just sat and I looked at it, and I just become so overwhelmed with emotion. I cried, I gave it a kiss, and I went into that childlike position of just allowing the emotions and the guilt and all those feelings of, I wish I could have done more for you. I wish I could have saved you. I wish I could have had more for you. I wish my childhood wasn't the way it was. And it was a process that was so grueling, but it was so freeing, because it was like looking back at the little me and saying, I'm sorry. And sometimes we don't even have to be sorry because it's not our fault, but we have to be sorry for the feelings that we feel, for all the shame and the hurt and the pain that we are carrying. And after I had done that, I then wrote a letter to myself. I wrote a letter to myself, childlike, and then who I am as an adult. And it sounds really crazy and maybe a little bit edgy, But it works, because if you can't get deep first with yourself, then how are you going to be able to get deep later on? How are you going to be able to go into a counselling session and start reeling out all these emotions when they're so trapped deep down inside? So the first step to actually healing is you. It's about you getting inside of yourself. It's about you going deep. And how you do that can be personal. Like I said, you can grab a photo, you can look back at it. If you're trying to deal with trauma of a relationship, grab that photo, cry to it, talk to it, write a letter. Even if you don't send the letter to somebody, write it, burn it, throw it in the water, whatever you have to do in order to, what I call, internalize it and externalize the process. So something as very simple as that can be so powerful in the transformation of healing. And like I said, part of the problem is actually our own resistance to healing, because sometimes it's so much easier to stay where we are, whether we like it or not. It just feels that little bit easier to do. Now, when you start the process, we call it a time of transition. And transition is one of the toughest times that you're going to go through when you want to start the process of healing, because it's kind of like you're stuck in the middle. So you're trying to come out of the old you, but there isn't really the end goal. So you don't feel like you've actually progressed. You kind of feel stuck. And so it sometimes feels easier to just stop healing, whether that's going to a counsellor, whether that's doing some own self-development. It just feels like it's easier to stop. And it's trying to find that security, I guess. It's trying to find something that you feel is actually going to benefit you. So it's really important that you actually plan a part of a healing journey. I know that sounds really quite strange, a bit more practical, but it is a practical process, because you have to be physically, mentally and emotionally aware, because trauma as a whole gets trapped in the body. So it isn't just an emotional, mental process. And if you've been feeling dissatisfaction about your situation, yet you felt fear about changing, then you're going to keep going round into the same cycle that will hold you back from the next step. So what am I trying to say? Commit to the process, I guess. Formulate an action plan. As crazy as that sounds and very technical, but it's not. It's the way we can help to carry out the first step of the plan. So think about, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to go and see a counsellor? Am I going to start journaling my emotions? Am I going to do some inner healing work on myself, my young self that I want to work on? And yes, it can be traumatic, purely because there's just that sense of loss. It's almost like a death of an old you, of an old situation. And we need to be able to recognize that we didn't have a choice with trauma. We didn't have a choice with what we went through, but we have the choice to heal. And that's the most powerful thing that you can do. Habits, as we know, we hear about these all the time, because what can happen with trauma as well is we can form habits and patterns of behaviour, the way that we feel we can release our emotions. And as we know, they can be formed within 21 to 40 days. But the reality is it's not that easy to rewire that habit. So this is a long journey. So people will say to me, but I'm ready to heal, and I just want to heal. I want the miracle cure overnight. There isn't. I'm sorry, okay? And anyone who tells you that there is, really, I would be very shocked. You may be able to do a lot of the process work within like 24 to 48 hours, but the whole healing process is a long journey. And during the weeks of that journey, you are going to feel absolutely exhausted. When we do the 7-week PTSD recovery program, I always say to the ladies I work with, it's exhausting, it's emotional, it's tiring, it brings back memories, flashbacks, fear, crying, anger, you name it, it brings it all back. So you need to go really easy on yourself during that period of transition. But start from today, make a plan, set a goal. How can I heal? Do some research. Honestly, look into what you think is going to help you. Everybody's going to be out there saying, I have the miracle cure, I have the latest buzz therapy, I have this, I've transformed millions of women. The reality is you are your own counselor, right? So you have to start looking at what is going to work for you. And when people are at a different stage of their journey with healing, there actually isn't a direct therapy, I suppose, as you like, that would be the answer to it all. Because with trauma, there is so much more. You have your disassociation, you have your flashbacks, you have your nightmares, you have your self-harming patterns, you have anger, you have emotional numbing. You know, the list is endless. So there is really no size, like no one size fits all that you see out there in that world. You can do it safely as well, you know, if you have a plan. So I would never ever encourage somebody that's at a real low moment of their life to start trying to self-heal, because you do need a support system in place, because it can get really, really rough. And it can be really, really stormy. So you need to be ready. You need to be at a stage of your life where you know you have all the support system around you, you have your plan, you know what you're trying to get. And most importantly, I say this time and time again, you're going to get sick of it on every video, but when you truly believe that you deserve it, then you will allow the healing process to begin. And like I said, it doesn't matter if right now you don't feel ready for it, because I can assure you and I can promise you that there will come a time. It may be at a time that everything falls around you, everything hits you, and all of a sudden you break and you need to make a change, but it will come. So go easy on yourself. Start thinking about how can I heal, and then start making the plan. Throughout the trauma series that I'm doing, I'm going to be providing some coping mechanisms. Some of them are quite basic, but they are really effective, and different ways again that you can heal, and really just understanding. I cannot shout and advocate enough that knowledge is power. Yeah, how are you going to know how to heal if you don't even know what's going on inside your brain half the time? It's like picking up some clothing or a piece of equipment and it's got a label on it for the instructions, but it's blank. You know, so it's really important that you start to understand what is post-traumatic stress disorder. And it may sound, well, I can just go and Google that, but actually there's so much more to it, because you're going to get misinformation everywhere. So start trying to understand it. If you're catching this video, go back and watch the avoidance and safety behaviours. Go back and watch the triggers, and then you can move forward into the next series of coping mechanisms and working through the challenges of emotional numbing and anger, which I hope to get out there for you as soon as possible. So thank you so much for watching. I know it doesn't sound like it's a miracle cure and that I don't have, you know, I really don't have all the answers for you, but I want you to feel safe and secure at the fact that if you're not ready for that healing process right now, that's okay too. And if you are ready for it, damn girl, you deserve it. So you get on and you start making those steps that you need. And you are welcome to contact me. You can drop a comment here on the channel and I will try to get back to you. Or you can send me an email at info@mayameenmeftahi.com. And if you need just to sound that out, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Drop me an email. So thank you again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you back here for the next trauma video series.